Chapter 22. It was with more than a little chagrin that we told Lil what we'd done. Wanting to leave Emerald behind, Lester headed east through the dark as we took turns telling Lil how we'd snuck aboard Lester's bus, believing he would be returning to Salina. We told her how Lester had turned left instead of right, north instead of south, and how we'd found ourselves heading away from Salina and the hospital in our papa. Lil's face did not change throughout the telling or for several minutes after, when an awkward silence fell throughout the bus. The only sounds came from the knocks and pings of the engine and from the voices in my head. We're dead, Bobby's tattoo repeated over and over like a nervous heartbeat. Lil sat still for a long, long time. Samson had finished his burger and had carved a substantial crater in the pie, and now he reached out to sneak fries from Will's basket. The rest of us hadn't touched its contents. We'd all lost our appetites. Finally, the big woman let out a long, slow sigh with a sound like an angel falling down from one cloud to another. I sure know how to find my way into trouble, Lil said, more to herself than to any one of us. Today I've lost both my car and my job, and now it looks like I've gone and lost my senses too. We continued to watch Lil, cautiously hopeful that she wasn't going to turn us in. Listen here, all of you. Lil raised her little voice over the noisy engine. I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. Lester smiled. He seemed to dote on women who told him what to do, but at least Lil wasn't anything like Carlene or Rhonda. Lil laid down the law. The plan was to continue east toward Lincoln to find a motel, giving us some distance from Emerald, but getting us off the road sooner rather than later. Lil didn't like the thought of us being out on the highways at night, and she wanted us kids to call our parents to let them know we were safe and sound and headed for Salina in the morning. I could tell Lil was struggling with knowing the right thing to do, unsure how much messier one day could get. I contemplated that for a while myself. The last thing I wanted was to get Lester and Lil into any hot water just because I had the stupid idea that I could find my way down to Salina. I knew that it was my job to look after the grown-ups now. It was my job to keep them safe and out of trouble, and I supposed if that meant waiting until morning to get to Papa, that would just have to be the way things were going to be, even if it felt almost too much to bear. In the short hours since we'd climb aboard that bus, we'd become an odd band of renegades. We kids promised Lil that we would call home as soon as we reached the motel, but I kept my fingers crossed behind my back. Lester was clearly relieved to have someone else making the decisions. It seemed he'd used up every last drop of his tiny reservoir of nerve to keep the bus on its original course for his deliveries. Lil didn't say anything more about losing her job, and no one brought it up. She counted out the cash that the great and powerful Ozzy had paid her, squinting at it in the dim light inside the bus. Well, kidlings, she announced half-heartedly, I believe that I've got more than enough here to pay for a couple of rooms at a motel. Can you find us someplace out of the way, Lester? Anything you say, Lil. I watched Lil gaze fondly at Lester. I could tell by the way she looked at him that she found something in the man she admired. Maybe it had been the way Lester stopped to rescue her from her broken-down car, or how he'd helped her pick her money up off the floor, or his spur-of-the-moment plunder of the pie from the diner. Lester might not have looked the part of a hero, but I suppose you never can tell right off who might have a piece of Prince Charming deep down inside. Lester drove on for some time before finding us just the right motel. The Lincoln Sleepy 10 had only a few cars in the parking lot, and its vacancy sign was buzzing and blinking like a bug light. The Sleepy 10 was located on the far side of the city, across from a mega mart and a row of loud red and yellow fast food restaurants. We all stayed on the bus, which Lester parked well away from the motel, while the delivery man did the checking and using Lil's cash. After seeing my face on the TV at the Emerald Truck Stop Diner, I was none too keen on waltzing around in public any more than I had to, so I was glad to wait on the bus with the others. Lil told Lester to get 2 rooms, though Lester insisted he'd be sleeping on his bus to protect his inventory. I hoped the motel would come complete with thin white soaps wrapped up in paper, little bottles of shampoo, and crisp white towels folded up snug in the bathroom, all of which would make me right pleased. You're all up on the 2nd floor, said Lester when he handed Lil the room keys and watched us climb down out of the bus. He was just as tense and jumpy as ever, and he looked almost sad as we left him there. For a second, I wondered if Lester might panic and leave us there in the middle of the night. I supposed even less humble heroes might have thought about it, but the way Lester looked at Lil made me doubt it. Promise you'll be here in the morning, Mr. Swan? I called back to him before he closed the door of the bus. Lester tilted his head like a listening dog and gave me a funny look. Where would I go? He asked, as that was all the answer I needed. Lil ushered us toward the stairs and led to our rooms. Fish sniffed the air as we passed a locked door with a single window down on the first level. The sign next to the door said, Pool, guests only. Water, Fish said simply. The pool sat still and empty, reflecting dancing green light across the walls and ceiling of the small room. At any other time, being so close to that much water would have made Fish nervous and fidgety, but when I glanced his way, he looked calm as calm. Lil didn't miss the way we all looked at that pool through the window, but she ordered us up the stairs ahead of her with the command of a drill sergeant in green and white camouflage. When we reached the second floor, Lil took the lead, holding Samson's hand while looking for our rooms and fumbling one-handed with the room keys. The rest of us dropped behind. "We can't call home," I whispered to Will. He looked from Lo back to me, his eyes questioning. Lo was further ahead of us now, moving up the long hallway. I reached forward and tugged on the back of Bobby's shirt, noticing the way the angel tattoo on her back now reclined on one elbow, wings folded in, picking its teeth with the end of its pointed tail indifferently. "Bobby, we can't call home," I said to her. "Duh," she replied and rolled her eyes at me. "Of course she knows that," said the angel, but I ignored it. "Fish?" I know, he whispered back at me. "We can't call home, but just how do you think we'll get away with that?" "I've got a plan," I said. "Oh, goody," said Bobby. "She's got a plan."